Heads of states of the Central African Economic and Monetary Community, CEMAC, reaffirmed their determination to ensure that the sub-region has a common, stable and powerful currency. This is one of the issues highlighted in the 16 resolutions of the Extraordinary Summit of Central African Heads of States, which ended a few minutes ago in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé. Will be giving you details in this newscast. And in the southwest region of the country, medical teams are facing difficulties in controlling the spread of cholera in Idabato and other parts of the Bakassi Peninsula. And this is because many of the inhabitants are attributing the epidemic to witchcraft and so are running to magicians instead of hospitals. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us on this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinox Television, live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. I am Babla Jonathan. We begin with news streaming into our newsroom from the nation's political capital, Yaoundé, and heads of states of the Central African Economic and Monetary Community, CEMAC, have reaffirmed their commitment to have a common, stable and powerful currency for the sub-region. They decided to engage deep reflections that objective, and the Bank of Central African States, BEAC, has been charged with the responsibility of working out a roadmap to achieve within a reasonable deadline that objective of having a common, stable and powerful currency for the Central African sub-region. And the heads of state adopted 16 resolutions expressing their firm will to materialize and accelerate sub-regional integration for a harmonious development of the CEMAC zone. And of course, this entails the full free movement of persons and goods across the borders of the sub-region. And in his closing address, the head of state, President Paul Biya, highlighted some of these issues, and notably with regards to the integration or sub-regional integration component of the 16 resolutions of the just ended Summit of Central African Heads of States convened by the President of the Republic, who doubles as President of CEMAC. And I said earlier that in his closing address, the President of the Republic of Cameroon, Paul Biya, notably indicated that with the help of development partners and friends of the sub-region, the member countries' strategy towards sub-regional financial and economic stability and prosperity should continue. And of course, the President of the Republic of Cameroon also talked about the diversification, the need to diversify the economy of the sub-region, and of course the improvement of the doing business climate in order to enhance private investment for the well-being of the member countries. Innocent comes back on some of the highlights of the extraordinary summit of heads of states of the Central African Economic and Monetary Community.
Meeting at the 15th Extraordinary Summit in Yaoundé, the head of states of member countries examined results obtained following strategies put in place to come out of the 2016 economic crisis due to new security challenges and some external market forces. They as well analyzed the economic, financial and monetary perspectives of the sub-region. The head of state, Paul Biya, in his address said 3 years after, there has been a remarkable shift in the lines of economic growth, with a 1.7% growth rate recorded in 2018 within the CEMAC sub-region, up from 0.6% in 2017.
L'inflation se trouve en dessous de 3%. Les déficits budgétaires et extérieurs sont sensiblement réduits.
According to President Paul Biya, this significant improvement is thanks to the combined efforts of leaders of CEMAC member countries in the implementation of resolutions taken. Also, he thanked financial institutions like the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, African Development Bank, and the French Development Agency for always supporting CEMAC in difficult moments for economic emergence. To the head of state, still, the current sitting should be an opportunity to tackle existing problems like insecurity and youth unemployment. That CEMAC, no matter challenges, should get resilient to improve the welfare of the population. Heads of the CEMAC member countries were also exhorted by the President of the Republic of Cameroon not to relent efforts in consolidating the recorded achievements through a collective effort for the sub-region.
Messieurs les chefs d'État et de gouvernement,
at the close of the summit, the CEMAC Head of States Conference reached 15 resolutions on the economic, monetary and financial situation in the CEMAC space, plus an analysis of the prospects of the sub-regional organization.
The heads of states of the CEMAC sub-region are now returning to the country, and of course they are doing so through the Yaoundé-Simaleng International Airport. And of course the first to leave was the Chadian President Idriss Déby Itno, who was equally the first to arrive yesterday for the extraordinary summit of Central African heads of states convened by the acting CEMAC President Paul Biya, President of the Republic of Cameroon, and the 5 heads of state and the Prime Minister of Gabon representing President Ali Bongo discussed the way out of the security challenges affecting member countries of the CEMAC zone, and of course Cameroon, inclusive of the situation in the northwest and southwest regions of the country that has continued deepening for close to 3 years today, and with the peace initiative undertaken by the Prime Minister, Chief Dr. Joseph John Gote, who has sent some peace crusaders to those 2 regions. The people are demanding that government should shift from words to concrete actions that will solve the problem. These are some of the issues highlighted during meetings with the members of the Peace Crusade team of Chief Dr. Joseph John Gote, notably in the opacity of Limbe. Davidson Maimo has more. Davidson Maimo with that report on the views of some inhabitants of the town of Limbe with regards to government's management of the Anglophone crisis, with regards to some of the measures and some of the things that government has done till this moment to solve the Anglophone crisis. And like many other inhabitants of the 2 Anglophone regions of the country, in Kumba, in Bamenda, in Gokutunja, in the Boyo division and other parts of Anglophone Cameroon, they are now demanding for concrete actions on the ground, and not just words and speeches or sensitization, but concrete actions that will solve the Anglophone crisis. Davison Maimo. Now we continue with one of our lead stories to the Idabato subdivision. It is in the Bakassi Peninsula, and the locality is hit by a cholera epidemic, and medical teams who are on the ground are facing difficulties in controlling the spread of the cholera outbreak, the cholera virus. And this is because some of the inhabitants are attributing the epidemic to witchcraft, and so instead of running to the medical teams or to hospitals, they are instead running to herbalists and magicians.
Enough, they cannot count again.
They say they have lost count of lives that have been lost to the cholera outbreak here. We are in Idabato, a subdivision in Bakassi Peninsula of the Indian Division, and the Southwest Regional Delegation of Public Health has dispatched best of her personnel to this infested community with medication to assess and contain the situation.
Dr. Mustafa will be here, Josh will be here, Mr. Eke will be here.
And Dr. Ebongo Zacchaeus Nanje, Southwest Regional Delegate of Public Health, is leading the team, and their findings indicate that the cholera outbreak is real. But there is another major problem, not the epidemic that is rapidly spreading, but the people affected or the suspected cases. The general belief here is that a mysterious calamity has befallen the people.
This thing is not physical something, now spiritual things. So let our chief stand up and do something about it.
Our traditional ruler needs to sit up, go and find out who brought this evil on us, a lady told me, so that the person can be chased out of our community or charms planted at his or her door. The person is aware that the end of year is here for us to go home and celebrate, receive what that evil person brought this, she adds.
December.
To them, if the spiritual part is not handled first, the treatment this medical team is campaigning will just be a waste of time.
People like this, people that if they give drugs, the drugs don't go hold them, they will still die. They will take them home.
News of a suspected case that has been taken to a church for deliverance got to a response team on the ground, and it was in that same church the medical team was told that one suspected case died. Accompanied by the divisional officer for Edabato subdivision, the medical team immediately moved in, and the pastor gave his own result.
So the pastor, where is the sick? The person was so sick here.
Those people that were sick, God has healed them. They have gone.
Where are they?
We want just to greet them.
They have gone home.
They have gone home. You know their house they know. Okay. You know their house they know.
Where are they? I don't know their house.
Because you don't know the enormity, even you can be contaminated. You say God don't help them, they don't go where their house is, I don't know them. What's the meaning of that one? I don't like that kind of thing.
On a church bench, a suspected case is spotted.
And the child was actually taken from a church because the administrative authorities had to intervene. The pastor has said that they had treated the child, that God had healed the child, and the child is sent home. So they are actually making life difficult for us, because instead of helping us cooperate, get the cases out, treat them, they are trying to hide the cases. So this case is going to the hospital immediately for medical attention.
It is now clear that for this medical team to win this war against cholera, which is already leading, the team must face of all win the minds of these people.
Anglophone Cameroonians are calling on the government to move from words and speeches to concrete actions that will solve the socio-political and security tensions in the northwest and southwest regions of President Paul Biya's country. Some of them were speaking in Limbe during a meeting with some peace crusaders dispatched by Prime Minister Joseph John Gute to the two Anglophone regions of the country to canvass for a return to peace and normalcy in those parts of the country. Details with Davison Maimo.
The people are worried that there is no clear-cut understanding of what special status is all about.
The special status being a how make una try to carry am small go understand fine.
The FACO Peace Caravan team, headed by the Vice President, Professor Ndivembua, and Professor Victor Ngo, try to explain to the populace what special status might stand for.
The two regions, Northwest and Southwest, are special because they were administered by the British system, which is different from the other 8 regions that were administered by the French system.
Say English not be second hand. First hand, French, first hand, English. Because now we two we come together, we agree for this marriage, this unity where we did also.
However, this did not stop those who bother to attend to air out some embarrassing worries of what they term Anglophone plight.
From the first president to the present president, let me tell you, we made deep support. From Victoria Deep Seaport to Limbe Deep Seaport, we don't see them. Seaport jump for Limbe, you go for Kribi. Today we hear that Kribi Seaport, Kribi Terminal. Today for Limbe, we go.
By the time when you work for plantation, they will send you for the CDC, they send for hospital, they are all free, treat you freely. But today, as we don't know with the people, Nothing will happen. We are dying.
To the community, the best solution is for the government to begin with actions rather than words.
Me they come, talk say that money is wrong and this CDC is start. This beginning when I come up push, this CDC people they go employ when they work. If they only talk say me they come on come, they don't see what they will do, they don't come.
Nonetheless, a proposal similar to Cardinal Tume All Anglophone Conference is proposed.
Therefore, don't send me the same suggestions. We send the suggestions that for where and when. I be think say we forget Anglophone representatives. When the bill should draw up the special status content.
The FACO Peace Caravan team will visit it now. Tico and Moyoka in the days ahead, where they will continue with same exercise.
I'm reporting there from Limbe. Administrative authorities in the Mongo division and now working out solutions to the crisis in the O Plateau, the O Penja Plateau Banana Estate, and they are doing so with administrative officials of that company and of course with the representatives or trade unionists of the workers who went on a rampage over what they qualified as illegal retirement. And of course they met in a crisis meeting in Njombe. Details with Hermine Luga.
Serenity has regained La Plantation de Haut Penjar in Njombe after 2 days of strike by hundreds of angry workers who denounced their forceful eviction from the company with low take-off packages. To appease the situation, which noticed the intervention of forces of law and order, a crisis meeting has been held at the company's head office in the presence of the senior divisional officer for the Mungo, the managing director of the company, different syndicate groups, and the disgruntled workers. Yves Bertrand Noel Chana is the senior divisional officer of the Mungo.
La loi a été pleinement respectée. Toutes les négociations, tous les débats.
The law has been respected. All was deliberated in the presence of the delegate concerned with works. We have all been there to see into it that the bad wind blows off and work resumes.
Cette secousse est passée et que le travail va bel et bien reprendre.
Eric Njok is the Human Resource Director of La Plantation de Haut Penjar.
Il y a eu des malentendus qui n'ont pas forcément plu à tout le monde.
There have been misunderstandings which didn't please everyone, reason why we got to this. As it's now, we work towards the future and to ensure the farewell of workers and the growth of La Plantation de Haut Penjar.
Revoir les conditions de travail des employés, mais pouvoir contribuer également à l'amélioration et la croissance économique de l'entreprise.
Resolutions taken states that out of the close to 400 workers concerned, strictly 72 will have to cease working for the company. But as insisted by the frustrated workers, their payoff packages will consist of 100,000 CFA francs per year for workers who worked above 5 years at La Plantation de Haut Penjar. Meanwhile, those who worked from 0 to 4 years will only receive 500,000 CFA francs. But added to these, end-of-year bonuses will consist of the final take-off packages. According to the main speaker of the angry workers, Soso,
la résolution tous les 72 de lever la grève. Les autres continuent le service, bien sûr.
As per the resolution, the 72 concerned workers have been asked to stop the strike and the others resume work. Documents have been signed. As it's now, we have no complaints.
Les autorités ici présentes étaient là et les délégués, les présidents des syndicats, nous tous nous avons pris des engagements et du coup, nous n'avons plus de plaintes.
Worthy to note, such strategic matters within the place of work have seldom frustrated thousands of workers across the world, and Cameroon in particular. Oscar Gomer represents syndicate actors.
Les syndicats ont veillé scrupuleusement à ce que les droits légaux soient calculés. Nous sommes en train de dire qu'en fonction de ce qui a été signé,
the syndicate actors have ensured that all legal rights be respected. Reason why it's been decided that workers above 5 years will receive 100,000 TFA francs per year and 500,000 TFA francs for those who worked between 0 to 4 years.
Donc, personne ne partira sans avoir un minimum de 500 000 comme bonus en fonction de ce que nous avons signé dans le protocole d'accord.
With key resolutions taken by the main actors, all is then expected to enroll hitch-free from now on at La Plantation de Opinja in Jombe, Mungo Division of the Littoral region of Cameroon.
Inhabitants of Ngambetika subdivision in the central region of the Republic of Cameroon have said they want government to take more serious measures and actions to protect their forest resources. And they were speaking after Forestry and Wildlife Minister Jules Dore Ndongo suspended 15 forest exploitation companies over illegal exploitations. Manjikan Gabriel has more.
At the gateway into Nkong, in the Ngambetika subdivision, glaring signs of the illegal exploitation of forest products. If the title is UFR, you will find either UFR 10036. We have to see the date that the log was brought down. In short, these are some of the things you will find. Further in the forest, at a maize plantation, again, equipment of companies that deal with illegal exploitation have passed by. This was a farm that belonged to a community. They had already cultivated maize, but there were some trees inside, and they opened up a footpath just to enable them to get into the farm. As they go in search of the woods, it is the environment that suffers, as even the water sources available are rendered unusable. We are still at Nkong. Here it is a fragile environment that trees are not supposed to be cut. It is a swampy area. They don't only cut the trees but abandon them. At Mansulu, it was the same illegal exploitation that we met. It is a very vast area, Ngambetika. We are at 7,200 kilometers square, which is more than the West region. If many forest exploitation companies, amongst them Seri of Mbam and Kim, whose director has denied practicing illegal exploitation off camera, a recent decision of the Minister of Forestry and Wildlife has given the company reasons, as out of the 15 companies suspended by Jules Dore Ndongo appears SMK, that has been accused of exploiting forest products without permission. The suspension adds that the company has to stop any forest activities engaged in that area. This implies all of the trees that has been cut down will be taken back by the community. Notwithstanding this decision of the minister, many of those whose forests have been illegally exploited are hoping for better days ahead.
Over 900,000 francs CFA. Over 900,000 francs CFA have been raised by the Bamungun community in the East region of Cameroon to support the families affected by the recent landslide in Kwache in the Bamenda or the Bafusam 3 subdivision. Immaculate Fogwe. Immaculate Foge with that report on the efforts of the Bamungum community in the East region of the country to support their fellow citizens affected by the recent landslide in Kwache in the Bamenda 3 or the Bafusam 3 subdivision, and many of those who were affected by that incident are still expecting aid from the Yaoundé administration. Immaculate Fogwe. Talking Point is up next. Thanks for joining us in Talking Points. We are receiving a politician, militant of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement, CRM political party. Akumanga Jaspal, you're welcome.
Thank you, Babila Jonathan. It's my pleasure, and greetings to all televiewers. I think we're going to share the happenings of the week.
you're one of the candidates preparing for the municipal and legislative elections billed for February 2020. Was it easy compiling your file?
Actually, it wasn't so easy, and you know, it is so tough with especially the opposite partners. I'm talking of the opposition parties. We have a system in place whereby it's not comfortable for us. I don't understand why you need to meet the senior divisional officer and he needs to call the divisional officer to find out if he is supposed to sign a particular document. And going at, just like what is happening presently at QC, you have some of our militants who have been asked to pay 2,000 francs before signing a document. I don't know why and the reason for that. So actually I know it's so tough, but then we are calling up to date. You bear with me, the CPDM militants, even at home, their documents have been done there by telephone calls, but we are supposed to move from one end to another, and at the end of the day, you know, it's either there's a problem here, so it is not so easy.
Where is the problem? Is it because you're a militant of the CRM? Is it because those who went to the Yaoundé 6 divisional office to get their documents and could not do so? We saw some of your leaders, Alain Foguet, blocking administrative, disrupting administrative activities in that office as a result of some of those challenges that they were facing. Is it because you're militants of the CRM, or there are normal problems that anybody can face in an office of that nature?
Mr. Jonathan, I think I will not accept that from you, saying we are distracting and, you know, causing trouble. But,
no, I didn't say you're disrupting and causing trouble. I said that Alain Foguet and other militants of the CRM blocked the entrance into the administrative office of the DO, of the Yaoundé 6 subdivision, because their documents, they were facing some difficulties that they could not understand. So the question I'm asking is it because you're militants of the CRM, or there are normal problems that every other user can face?
For real, I will not talk of the other parties, of which I don't know much about it, but I will come back home as a militant of CRM and happen to be one of the ongoing 220 municipal election candidate. Actually, for real, it's not so easy, and as I earlier said, there are issues that do it intentionally. Before the beginning of the exercise, we were informed that none of the documents should have stamps. And just like if you go to Yaoundé, you talk of the non-conviction document, they will impose you, because for us, like some of us from the Northwest and the Southwest region, you know very well with the ongoing crisis, it's not so difficult for one to go at the region of origin to acquire
it's very
such
difficult,
document.
you mean to say?
Yeah, and most of the times when you go, the mayor is not on seat. Most of the mayors presently are working with their office. If I talk of their office, it's like talking of their stamps. If some of our militants inform you where their documents were signed, being it in Yaoundé, etc., by the mayor of their different region from Northwest, then different areas from Northwest, you will be surprised. So actually, it becomes so difficult if you transport yourself from Bamenda, let's say, to a village like I call it Mwa, where I was.
And so on.
And then on reaching there, the mayor is not on seat, and the mayor is somewhere around the littoral region or the central region. So what will you do? You are forced to run again at that area. And reaching Yaoundé, they impose a particular amount for you to pay, of which none of those documents are supposed to be paid. If you have all what it needs, I believe like at the Inpo area, where there are some requirements like your contributions card and, you know, your land certification, If you have all the documents needed, you have no 5 francs, you don't have any single franc to pay, of which it is not the case. You need to go there in order to face the difficulties. They will impose a particular amount and then insist that your document, if you don't put a physical stamp, they won't sign, knowing very well that with the physical stamp, they will eliminate your document. So what are we going to do? At that particular point in time, the party have put in place a lawyer in order to come and, take a look what is happening and put some orders. That's just what is happening at the level of the party.
Let me get it very clearly. Who is imposing a fiscal stamp? Who is compelling the militants who want to put in their files to place a fiscal stamp on some of the documents? Who is asking for money when there is not supposed to be any payment?
I said it and I repeat.
The divisional officers, his collaborators?
Just like now, presently at QC, they have imposed a sum of 2,000 francs per militant to sign a document. We don't know where this money is going to, and we don't know if they were asked to collect money. 2, if you go at the impôt, at the taxpayers office there, if you don't have a contributor card, they have to fabricate one on the spot and ask you 20,000 francs. And talking of a document you need to pay as a landlord every month, we know about it. If you don't have it, you need to pay 20,000 francs, making the total 40,000 francs. What of a common man who cannot afford for that amount? Because at the beginning, they make us to understand that a single franc should not be paid. Then in Yaoundé, none of the non-convention in Yaoundé can be signed without a physical stamp. You bring it, then they say no, they can't. Coming back to Douala, when you go at the, I think at the court level, like at the first instance there in Bonaberi, they imposed that all the certificate of nationality should have physical stamp. And then if you go, and other people did theirs in Bamenda, coming back to Douala, they said, no, you're supposed to do it at where you live and where you are a militant. So it becomes so difficult because information were not given, and some of these people know actually what they are doing in order to eliminate most of the files. So we were forced now at a certain moment to call back the general manager of tax to really give clarifications as far as that information is concerned, what is needed, because you won't just believe people are spending money here, transporting themselves from one region to another to go, and for real, if I tell you how much I've spent in order to acquire, not to talk of non-conviction, and there is this other document, they talk of extra of your copy birth certificate, you need to go where your birth certificate was drawn.
To your place of birth.
Yeah, okay. Take an example, somebody like me, if you know where we call Mwa, around Sabongari area, there's no road to go there, and if I have to go there, it's not an issue of 2 days.
The security situation is...
You don't know who is fighting against who at the road when moving. So you can receive a lost bullet. So it becomes so difficult. And the worst of it, you transport yourself right up to the office, you manage region there, and the mayor is not on seat, and the assistant is not ready to sign. So what should we do? It's like it is a planned act. The people who are on decks, they don't want to leave. But I think the message we have passed so far at Douala for Council is that they should already start doing their inventory, because very soon will come in.
But these are some of the difficulties, notably with regards to the compilation of the files of candidates and the unfolding of the elections proper, notably in the 2 Anglophone regions of the country. These are the reasons that some persons have highlighted to say there is no need for organizing elections now. It's not proper to go for elections now. But your party decided to go for the elections, and you are running for the post of municipal council in the Douala 4 subdivision. And some people think that people like Honorable Awudumbaya think that it's not proper to go seeking for a post of responsibility, to go seeking to maintain yourself in parliament or in a council over corpses and blood.
Yeah, you have a point, but the problem here is this. The date has been made out already. The information have been pasted. You have been reading it over and over in your news program, that election 9 February 2020. The gospel truth is, if you don't go in, automatically there will be election. And you will blame yourself for not going in. The truth here is we need a change. And for one to bring a change, you need to go in and, get yourself voted and maybe take a seat in order to now start talking about some of these laws that were voted many years behind. Just coming back to ELECAM, that we have been complaining about the electoral system of this country. ELECAM itself asks for amendment of the Constitution. They themselves, they have written a letter that the Constitution that they are using presently up to date needs amendment. And now, if they get up and say, okay, the last 2018 documents, they said they imposed, no, it was supposed to have physical stamp. Then today, they said no more physical stamp, and some areas they imposed. If you look very well in reality, Babila, it is better to go in than stay, knowing very well that we'll take an example in countries like USA, where we have just two parties, the Democrat and the Republicans. And if one of these parties refuse going in for election, bear with me, there will be no election, right? But here in Cameroon, just take an example like CRM, SDF, these two parties. If they say they are not going in for election, knowing very well that are one of the two main opposition leaders in the country presently, I think the national party, because CPDM have become a national party, whereby most of the businessmen want to get attached, pass through there in order to protect their business. And now it becomes as if you are not you are not belong in that party, and then you are not a Cameroonian. It becomes now as a national party. So you bear with me that if one of these parties refuse going in for election, they will already start jubilating. Already now at the social media, you can already get results about the upcoming result municipal and elections, of which we have not yet gone. So just expect.
Some parties like the CPP of Kabanwala, the PAP of Njang Dennis are saying that the priority for Cameroon, for the government at this point in time, should be to solve the Anglophone crisis, to restore peace and normalcy in those two regions, because going in for elections will not even, the elections will not even take place in those two regions.
Yeah, that's true, and that is an indirect way of accepting that Cameroon is not one and indivisible. And again, there is this issue whereby the days behind they talked of special statute for Anglophones, of which up to date we Anglophones, we are not seeing the special statute. I think it is still in the envelope. We are still struggling to wait, even though he think he have already gone there in France and released what was in the envelope. We are still waiting for the implementation, how the way they will implicate and how it looks like. But looking very well about the ongoing crisis, bear with me, these crises have been for the past 3 years plus, of which last year in 2018, we got elections in this country, and people went in for election as part of these two regions. And the president, who is on seat today, knows very well that in the northwest and the southwest region, there was no election, even though he had a very good score there, more than the citizens or more than the inhabitants of that area. So I know very well that presently, if you claim to say there shouldn't be any election, bear with me that whenever there is crisis, you have people who always take advantage. And what they want to do now is taking advantage because they know we will not go in. So the reason why we are going in is because it has already been announced. But see that date before
and to avoid a situation where the CPDM will grab all the parliamentary seats, all the councils.
Which means the system will remain the same. Just like I said it last time, that you can't be struggling to change a system and going in with the same system. So what we need is, if you remember very well, some years behind, that was, which year was this, whereby SDF refused going in? you know, they regret the reason why they did not go in, because they would have grabbed a lot of seats at the parliament and then taken this decision. So that is the real reason that we need a change, and whatever, for us to have this change, we need to go in. So I just plead with us that we, the Anglophones, we should understand the situation at hand, that actually we are struggling to change the country, and if you don't go in, there will be much room parties here and there, and they will go in and the name of election, and at the end of the day we will get the results. So
Akumanga Jespal Nji, member of the Cameroon People's Democratic, no, not the Cameroon People's Democratic
Renaissance Movement.
The Cameroon People's Renaissance Movement, CRM political party. Thanks for coming. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That's it for today.